The kids getting more and more into the internet. It's kind of taken over life. So we've done shows on bullied to death and that sort of stuff because they get on there and they get bullied. You used to get bullied at school and you go home, you were at least away from it. Now it follows you home.
Yeah.
Kids can't get away from it. It's cyberbullying.
That's what's scary. And they're so connected to social media. It's not like an adult that could just ignore it and walk away. They also don't have the coping mechanisms that an adult who's been through a lot of adversity has acquired. These are young, developing people.
Yeah, and they're not developing thick skins like I was talking about. They're
Right.
getting breaking up and all of that. So they learn, hey, I came back from that. It's okay. I was able to get through it.
It's a part of the development process, but some kids don't come back from it.
And it's terrible. Parents, they ask me a lot, how do I know if my kid's getting bullied? Well, you need to ask yourself two questions. How do you know if your kid's getting bullied? And how do you know if your kid's a bully? Because kids are bullying kids, so some parent needs to know that their kid's doing the bullying. You got to ask those two things. And the answer to that question, how do you know if your kid's getting bullied? Every parent has a baseline for their child, right? You know how your child behaves. There's a certain level of interaction, participation, certain moods, certain verbalizations. That's when you need to pay attention. Now, kids are up and down, so I'm not talking about if they're a little moody on Tuesday versus Monday. But if they start not wanting to go to school, they start withdrawing from everything, they start regressing in their behavior, things they used to be competent at, all of a sudden they're not competent anymore. They get clingy, whiny, lots of stomach aches, don't want to go to school. They just start really falling off that baseline across time. That's when you want to really pay attention because they very well may be getting bullied. And if your child is all of a sudden excluded, they start showing up with things you didn't buy them, book bags or any paraphernalia from school or whatever, your child might be bullying somebody. And you need to find out on either end because I did a show just last week. A girl was terrific young woman involved in elite hockey, girls hockey, national ranked team, elite hockey. And the bullying started on day 1. She killed herself on day 5. It went that fast. And this was not an unstable girl. She was a rock star athlete, and they all turned on her.
For what?
Well, she peers that she dated allegedly got offended, and they started and started calling her names and excluding her and blah, 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 blah. And she just panicked and thought there was just no future. Everybody hated her and thought she was no good and disrepute, and she took her own life.
God. It's so horrible when you're an adult and you've been through stuff and you know that this will pass. But kids don't feel that. They don't know that. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to them. They don't. 4
days. On the 5th day, she took her life. And she wiped her phone clean. She said, look, I know you're going to blame yourself. Don't do it. This was me. I'm sorry. I'm gone. Bye. They dug into it, and as soon as it happened, some of the other members on the team, because all the messages had been erased, but as it was happening, some of the other members on the team screenshotted those and kept them and sent them to the parents and said, here's what happened. And they have them. And so a lot of those girls have now been suspended from the leagues and all this league play and everything because they were a nationally ranked team. And they would have never known if those girls hadn't screenshotted those messages that they were sending around to everybody and sent them to the parents. They'd have never known. But those girls came forward and said, here's what happened.
And they got copies of the text messages and gave it to the mom. And the mom didn't want to believe it. And they had to say to the mom, like, look, here's real clear evidence of horrible things your kid is saying to this other kid. And this mother was sort of delusional and just didn't want to think that her kid was capable of this. But they had it right there. They're like, look, this is how this girl behaves. Then the kids sort of ostracized her. And she was 10 at the time, and I think she's kind of come around. But there's people like getting an effect from other people. And when people are angry at people, especially young kids, they'll formulate sentences in a way that can have the most impact and be the most mean possible, especially if they see that kind of talk in their house. Like maybe if the parents are insulting and scream at each other and say horrible things to each other.
I take pride in the fact that I'm willing to learn. I want to learn, but you better bring facts. I don't really care what people think. I barely care what I think. I want to know what the facts are. We need to get back to the facts in this country. Is there anywhere to get news? It's all
Propaganda.
It's all propaganda.
Yeah.
And parents, I don't care how much you think your child's a little princess, deal with the facts. As parents, we need to deal with the facts. As voters, we need to deal with facts. I'm watching all this right now.